It is Tyler again with Microbiome Test Kitchen. Today I wanted to talk about some things and share with you some things I wish I had known before I started the whole fermenting journey. I used to be a long-time lurker on fermentation Reddits. I used to watch all of these YouTube videos on fermentation, and I never really had done it before. The first thing that we need to talk about with fermentation, especially fermenting vegetables in water, is the presence of a water level. If we're fermenting vegetables, usually there's going to be a brine. The vegetables need to be below that brine level because if they're not, mold will grow on top. I have done that several times in the past. Dude, I don't know if that's safe to eat. What do you do with the mold when it grows on top? Is the mold going to destroy your fermentation? No, but it will make the things that do get moldy on the top layer not edible. You should throw those out. How do we get things under the water level line? We have to use weights and we have to weigh things down, especially with sauerkraut. Cabbage loves to rise. There's these little pieces that love to come to the surface and collect all of the mold. So we need to weigh things down. When it comes to something like beets or carrots, those things have enough weight on their own to sink below the surface. Okay, for the second thing that I really wish I knew about fermentation before I started, it's something that always seems obvious when you start fermentation, but it's the whole deal with timing. With your beginning fermentation projects, it's going to be really easy to time things because you're so excited about them and you're like,
oh my god, I want this to be done already.
You know, you're gonna get your sauerkraut and you're just gonna be like, oh my god, I'm gonna take it out on this minute of this day. However, like me and a lot of other fermenters, you will quickly become a little bit lackadaisical on that side of it. So what I have had to do actually is set reminders on my phone, and these reminders sort of tell me when I should take something out, when it's ready, when I should test something, when I should taste it. So for sauerkraut, for example, I'll do 5 weeks, and I'll also set a tasting date at like 3 weeks because a lot of people actually take their sauerkraut at 3 weeks, but I like mine to go a little bit longer. And of course, this time is gonna be dependent on whatever you're fermenting. For peppers and other vegetables, some people like to do around 5 to 10 days. For dairy products, very different. If you're talking about kefir is a wild thing. Kefir can go crazy in a span of like 3 days. You'll look at it like 5 days later. Sometimes the craziness isn't too good. Sometimes especially with kefir, your kefir will separate out, have a yeast overgrowth, sometimes turn sour, sometimes turn too fizzy. You need to be on track of your timing. And trust me, over fermenting something is not the end of the world. It does suck, and I've done it multiple times. I haven't smelled a lot of dying animals, but I'm 100% sure this smells worse. And I try to avoid doing it because it's sort of like a wasted project. It's like I put a bunch of work into something in the beginning, and I didn't pull it out at like the perfect time for it to be like at its most tasty level. It's like with wine. I think that's like another tip that I have for the whole tracking and timing setup is to take pictures and set reminders on your phone to take pictures like every day or maybe every week if it's a longer ferment. And this will get you more involved in the process. Taking these pictures really helps for your own documentation so that you can know next time when you ferment sauerkraut or something similar, what it looks like at this stage and should it be. Because I think something that's important to remember in the end is that fermentation is sort of like a science project. I think it's totally true that no two ferments will be the same. It's like physically impossible, but I think it's a helpful thing to track the course of your ferments. All right, so for the third thing, what do you need to be a fermenter? You don't need anything. That's kind of a lie. You do need some things, but you need way less than what you think. I know on my channel and on other fermentation channels like It's Alive with Brad and Mike with Pro Home Cooks and Joshua Weissman, I mean, those guys have really cool tools. They have crocks and all these jars and valves, airlock systems and mason tops, I already said crocks. I'll tell you one thing that you do need to have. You literally just need any glass jar. Somebody commented on my last video, he was using $6 pickle jars to ferment things, and that is totally valid. If you're doing straight up vegetable lacto fermenting, that's all you need. You need that, salt, water, and vegetables. As far as salt, you should get salt that doesn't have iodine in it, preferably sea salt or kosher salt. For water, you're gonna wanna use something that doesn't have chlorine in it. That's something that pretty much is in all tap water these days, or most city tap water these days. A good way to get rid of chlorine in your water is boiling it, although there's some debate on whether or not these things called chloramides get taken out of the water when you boil it. So if you want to be safe, what I do is I go to like Target or Walmart, get these big like 4-gallon jugs of distilled water, and that works perfectly. And you can refill those if you go back to Walmart. But back to containers, I'd really say that if you want to buy something, if you really feel the need to make a purchase, I'd say your first purchase should be a gallon glass jar. And this is because these things are so versatile and they're also really cheap. And along with these, if you want to do smaller ferments, I'd also suggest getting large wide mouth mason jars. Get wide mouth mason jars because a lot of the accessories are only made for wide mouth jars. You should try to invest in a small kitchen scale so that you can make sure you're doing brines correctly. Oh, and one more thing about water. This is actually why making sauerkraut or kimchi is so good. It's because you don't have to worry about the water, because the water just comes straight from the cabbage itself. So that's why I definitely suggest making sauerkraut or kimchi one of the first things that you ferment. And one more thing about vegetables in general, you want to make sure you get organic vegetables. I know organic things are more expensive, and I know that sometimes they're hard to find. I will say that more and more Walmarts are getting organic foods at an increasing rate. The fourth thing that I think is really important to have going into fermentation, which a lot of you do have already, is patience. And with that patience is continued enthusiasm, because a lot of things that I've fermented in the past, pretty much every other thing I ferment is not really something that I love or is delicious or is something that would get an award. One thing that I always remind myself is that I need to expose myself to the bacteria in this food because it's good for me. It's a natural probiotic that I made, but I will tell you some of the stuff I've made is not good. It doesn't taste good. Nope. It might be good for me, but it's hard to eat every day. Along with the enthusiasm and patience part is the enthusiasm to learn the new methods and the old methods and to see what's working for people and what's not working for you. And that was weird. You can look at books like this. I really like this book. This is The Art of Fermentation by Katz. I really like this one. I've gotten a lot of ideas from it. The fermentation community usually really likes this book, and they like the other one by Noma, which is also a very famous book. But again, before you go ahead and buy one of these books, I would just suggest doing it. Just do the thing, because that is where you're gonna learn the most, through just trying it and maybe succeeding, maybe not succeeding. But I will say that it is a very rewarding experience. You get to see things transform pretty much in your own kitchen. You literally are sitting there and there's a living community of things going on in the corner of your cabinet that you do not understand at all, creating this something, and it is just super magical. We don't really know that much about this stuff. I think it's great. All right, guys, for all of you beginners out there, just go ferment something. Go make sauerkraut, or go get a bunch of carrots and just stick them in water with some salt. Go try it, because what else do you have to do? If you like this video, you can comment, subscribe, like it if you liked it, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.